train in Winton last Saturday, and I'm here now. See, they rang me up from Tamworth, told me something was on, so I said I'll be in it, you know, and so here I am.
Boys of the Dardanelles, they face the shock and the shells. Down in the history their fame will go. Our children, their daring deeds will know what they learn in khaki and in blue, and from the world what they can do. How they fought and fell, the tables daily tell, boys of the Dardanelles.
Those who have floral tributes, they've carried a long way for this occasion, to please come and lay their floral tributes at the foot of the podium. On behalf of the Council of the Australian War Memorial...
I've been disgusted ever since. I've lost so many mates there. See, I lost about, over 20 of my best friends from the battalion.
If Britain goes to her Armageddon, then Australia will go with her.
We will help defend the motherland to the last man and the last shilling.
The Commonwealth of Australia is a link in the empire chain, which has been sorely tested and stoutly stood the strain.
Australia is prepared to send an expeditionary force to any destination desired by the home government.
To all who come and settle with friends both old and new, rally round the banner of your country.
The shortest path to a triumphant peace is to force the Dardanelles and take Constantinople. This will open supply lines to our Russian allies and demoralize Germany.
Gentlemen, here are the orders. On April the 25th, the Allies will make 6 simultaneous landings and 2 diversions. The British 29th Division will land on 4 beaches at the Turf of Gallipoli, while the Anzacs will go ashore at Gallipoli.
My dearest wife, inside a few hours, we shall be in the thick of the greatest combined naval and military operation in history, and Australia will be in pride of place. That we shall succeed is not in doubt, but that I shall come through unscathed is not so certain.
The British liaison officer gave us these instructions. I remember it as if it was yesterday, although it's 69 years ago. I remember his very words. He said, "Gentlemen of the AIF, you're going to meet the most vicious enemy that you ever met. Under no circumstances be taken prisoner." He said they've got women behind the lines that mutilate every man that's taken prisoner, especially young men. You see, you know of the mutilation then. So, of course, we'd all vowed that no one would be taken prisoner.
The night was as calm as a mill pond, beautiful. The destroyer pushed off towards Gallipoli at a slow pace, and they hung about and manoeuvred about where they wouldn't be detected until the moon disappeared.
Well, he said, you won't go straight into action. You'll march 4 miles north to join the British. And that's why we're issuing you with British caps. Well, we were hostile about that. No, we said we don't want the caps, we want our own hats.
We were briefed on the Derflinger, and they said, now, You'll go into these villages about 3 miles, from where we landed, and we want you to be careful not to interfere with the women and all this sort of thing. We were briefed this way, but we never got to the bloody villages.
There was a deathly silence, and I saw the searchlight flash across the sky, and then up goes a flare, and then the rifle shot, just like the crack of a whip, and then the bullets started to come thicker and thicker.
What happened to us was we were rowing away on those big sweeps, in the lifeboats off the Derflinger. Bang, flat shell went right through the bottom of the boat, and we're in the drink. See, this is about, I suppose, a mile and a half from shore. Well, I discarded my rifle, threw my pack off, and I said, God, and my putties were on. I got undressed in the water.
And they gave us the caps. So one fellow said, I'm not going to wear this into action. He said, this is what we'll do with it. He took his cap off and pulled the round wire. He pulled it out, so we all did that. We all pulled the wire out, and then we dinted in the cap on the sides, and, to make it different to the bombs.
All right, the Navy came along. The little naval pinnaces came along from one of the Navy, hooked us out with a boat hook, pulled us onto the pinnace and took us alongside to a hostile ship called the Gloucester Castle.
I was excited about it, wanted to get into it, getting the quickest way I could to shore. Anyhow, bullets start coming in and zipping around the boat in the water, whistling overhead. And my friend, Buddy in the boat, he sat between me and the edge of the boat, and he got one it must have been in the heart. He went straight over my oar. All he said was, oh.
And we're just getting ready to go up the rope ladders, on the Gloucester Castle, when another shell sunk the pinnace, went right through the bloody pinnace. We're in the bloody drink again, twice in the one morning.
And all the time this din was going on, you could hear the shells roaring over. And after that ordeal, I began to feel that I wouldn't make it, but I did. And as soon as I got onto the beach a few feet, I just dropped. But about 2 minutes after, I could hear stretcher bearers coming from all over the place. So he started getting into work, bringing the wounded down to the beach.
Dear Mother and Father, at last I have water to write to you of. We were in the thick of it. We landed under fire. A brief pause on the beach to fix bayonets, and amid the singing and the swearing and the cheering, we charged up the hill. Clean over a machine gun we went. Men dropped all around me. All bayonet work it was. Mad, wild and thrilling.
The great tragedy of that was this, that the troops that followed, they didn't know that we'd changed hats or got into the Turkish trenches. Well, they saw us in this strange headgear in the Turkish trenches, and naturally they thought we were Turks, and they opened fire on us. Well, I had 2 of my best mates there shot through the back of the head.
Strategically, the landing had failed. 2,000 Anzacs were killed. Almost everywhere, the Turks controlled the key positions, and that night the Australian leaders, Birdwood and Bridges, requested permission to withdraw. But the soldiers were content, for they thought they'd triumphed in their baptism of fire, and they never considered retreat. They were ready to stay and they stayed. But the Turks were just as determined that they should go, and on the 19th of May, 10,000 Turks charged the Anzac front for a continuous 7.5 hours.
They came over, not in extended order like we advanced. You know, we advanced in extended order, but they came over en masse, just like a crowd coming out of a football match. And it wasn't a matter of aiming, it was just a matter of loading and pulling the trigger. I used 4 rifles that morning. They jammed one after the other with a continuous firing. No aiming, just loading and pulling the trigger, you know. And then anyhow, they were packed, the dead and wounded. So when the attack finished, we should have got down off the parapet into the trenches. But we didn't, because we knew that a lot of them were foxing. You see, pretended that they were wounded, and we were knocking them over as they retreated.
Well, the smell was terrible. That's why the Turks called for an armistice. We didn't want it. We was not getting the bad smell. It was coming from the sea right over our heads to the Turks.
And how thick were the bodies out there?
Oh, well, you've been in a field of mushrooms, have you, where they're growing all over the place in sheep country. That's how the bodies looked. And they had green, grey uniforms, and everyone, they had a belt on them, and they were swollen up that big, both sides of the belt. It looked just like one of my mother's roly-poly puddings. When we tried to shift these chaps, you caught hold of their shoes or their boots, and another one on their shoulders. The boots would come off in your head, their feet in the boots, come off their bodies. Anyhow, while we were out there, there was a chap from Western Australia, a Turk.
You talked to a Turk, did you?
Yes, I talking to this Turk. A lot of us, we all left our posts and got around talking. So he just got talking and being very friendly to one another. And then this officer came along and cracked a whip a couple of times and told him to, I don't know what they said, but they all seemed to skulk away. And we just looked at each other, smiled a little bit, and these blokes going back to their post.
By the end of June, it seemed the fighting was getting them nowhere. There was no relief, no place that was safe from Turkish shells or snipers. And every moment they had to be prepared to meet another Turkish offensive.
We knew we couldn't do it without getting cleaned up. Well, I was on Russell's Top, and it was only about 40 yards away. Well, we'd have never made it with the Turk in the 40 yards with his machine guns, and so might as well sit there until something else happened. I said, I never want to see the goddamn place again. I mean, you know, it's so desolate. Scrub. No water. Water used to come from Limnos on barges. Water had ought to be carried up from the beach in petrol tins, 1 gallon petrol tins, which we had in those days. You don't have them now. And a pint of water a day, shave, make your tea and have a wash. And lice, God, that was good. I got a picture of that in there. I'll show you that if you'd be interested in it too. You know, they used to send us candles over with little parcels you'd get, you know, and candles, and you'd light a candle and you'd open the seams of your singlet, you know, or something like that, and you'd pour the hot wax all down the seams. Well, that'd get rid of a lot of those, you know.
Dear Mother, I must honestly say how delighted I will be when this war is over. It is simply terrible to see your pals shot down by snipers or blown to pieces by the guns. And the clatter of rifle fire is enough to drive a fella mad.
I had my 17th birthday on Gallipoli, celebrated it by pinching a string of figs and a tin of chicken from the sailors and out of one of their boats. They used to come ashore and sell it to the troops. They'd have eaten me if they'd have caught me. That was money for them.
What sort of food did you get normally?
Hard biscuits, which you perforated the top of a biscuit tin, and you scraped your hard biscuit, and then you made it up with water, and that was your porridge. And then occasionally you got 10 to a loaf of bread, and 10 to a tin of jam, and a slice of bacon.
I tried to eat a biscuit today, and a dozen flies swarmed into my mouth. I nearly howled with rage. Of all the bastards, this place is the biggest bastard on earth.
I got carried off on a stretcher with dysentery in the finish. I just couldn't keep going anymore. I did all I could, but then when you just can't eat anything and your bowels just turn to water, well, that's all there was to it.
So I was too far gone to be able to stand up.
Did many of your mates get dysentery?
Oh, thousands. There was thousands of them. The biggest part of them died from dysentery and enteric.
We are the Ragtime Army, the ANZAC. We cannot shoot, we don't salute, what bloomin' use are we? But when we get to Berlin, the Kaiserie will say, ho, ho, mein Gott, what a jolly fine lot are the Ragtime Infantry.
By the 6th of August, they were back into the thick of it. This time, the Anzacs were to mount a number of diversionary attacks to draw the Turks away from a British assault at Suvla Bay. The object for the Australians was the Turkish trenches at Lone Pine.
Yes, you get all worked up. But there's one thing that they used to do. They used to give us a tot of rum before we went out. When we took the front line of trenches, we had to kill every Turk or wounded him to allow room then for the 2nd Battalion to follow on over us to take the next trench in front. Where the Turkish trenches had overhead protection with timbers, they had to be dug away, either with your rifle or with your hands, so as to get in there. But the thing is this, whenever you was doing that, you was risk being shot at because you wasn't able to defend yourself.
Did you take any prisoners?
No. You couldn't spare the men to take prisoners.
So what did you do?
Well, you just killed them.
They held Lone Pine, but the attack cost 2,300 dead and wounded, and the British assault failed. In November, the Dardanelles delivered its last blow to the campaign, the worst weather in 40 years. But the decision had already been made. The peninsula would be evacuated. Stores were destroyed, rum tossed into the sea. An Australian, Bunty Lawrence, designed an ingenious self-firing gun so that the Turks would still think that they were manning the trenches during the evacuation.
And we all knew that we were running away from it. I did anyway. I was quite over. But I left a note on our little dugout there, and it was a tin of tobacco. And I wrote to Johnny Turk this note and told him the tobacco was clean and he could smoke it, it was quite all right, you know. And other people left things like that too.
They told us to tie sacking to our boots so the Turks wouldn't hear us. But I reckon it was so our dead mates wouldn't hear us go.
Once that campaign was over, the Turks, especially when I come back to Australia, met one or two of the different ones, they're always friendly. And today, they're wonderful friends, wonderful people.
You can't prevent wars. There'll be wars and talk of wars forever. But I'm against war. I can see the fallacy of it. Its uselessness.
What do you
There's no reason in the world. Nothing comes out of a war.
I've been reliving that landing for 69 years, and I expect I'll be doing the same until I join those brave Anzacs of Gallipoli.
Old England needs the men she breeds, that fighting to be done. Australians heard and were prepared to help her every turn. From out the bay they sailed away, our pride Australia's own. And so today they're far away, and some in the great unknown. Voice of the Dardanelles, they face the shot and shell. Down in history their fame will go. Our children, their daring deeds will know. Australian lords in khaki and in blue have shown the world what they can